Hey everybody, Sidewinder here with Static Impulse Gaming, and it's Friday, so that means we're playing World of Warships. We are on the map Trident, and I am playing my Tier 7 American aircraft carrier, the Ranger. I haven't played an aircraft carrier in a while, so I thought it'd be fun to go ahead and try it out again this week. The Ranger with the camo I have installed has a 14.2 kilometer detection for surface and 13.3 kilometer detection for air. The first thing I do at the beginning of any round with an aircraft carrier is set some waypoints. You don't want to be standing still because it takes a while to get going. So I set a few waypoints to take me behind that island at the beginning of the match, and hoping that my team pushes a little bit. My final waypoint is a little forward from my current position, at which point I'll set a few more to hopefully go forward even further. With an aircraft carrier, you don't really want to stay too far back from the main battle group, because the further back you are in the map, the longer it's going to take for your planes to fly back to the aircraft carrier to reload and then back to where all the action is. So if you can strike a nice balance between where you're positioned and the enemy's positioned, that's the best place to be. I'm right now setting some waypoints. They only have one destroyer on their team, so I'm trying to get my fighters to kind of go over the islands and sweep through them, see if we can find their destroyer. And I noticed that I didn't see any fighters at the beginning here so far, so with my bombers being as fast as they are, I am trying to get in a quick drop before the enemy aircraft carrier realizes what's going on or has a chance to launch his fighters. I do use manual drops with my bombers and torpedo bombers, just because you get a lot more damage that way. As you can see, both of those ships launched, the Omaha and the Nagato both launched their fighters. So they took a few of my bombers with them, but I did a decent amount of damage, 2 hits and 2 fires. Right now I'm just kind of keeping my fighters moving around at the front there, just trying to spot torpedoes coming in, the destroyer, and when I do see the enemy's bombers coming in, I want to be able to have something in that area that I can react with. But since I haven't seen any of his planes yet, I'm just looking for the destroyer right now. I do have a couple of upgrades on my aircraft carrier. I have Air Group Mod 1, which gives 10% to the average damage of aircraft guns. And then I've got Air Group Mod 2, which gives plus 20% to fighters' HP. Right now I'm trying to practice with my fighters again, because I haven't played an aircraft carrier in a while. I'm pretty good with bombers and torpedo bombers, but I'm trying to get back in the habit of managing the fighters too. For my commander skills, I have the Expert Rear Gunner, which is plus 10% to average damage for rear gunners, and that just helps the your bombers and torpedo bombers as they're out there fighting and trying to get back to the ship. Helps them take out maybe one or two of the enemy fighters, or in most cases possibly take out the one fighter plane that one of the ships launches for defense. Again, I'm doing a manual drop on this Nagato. I saw him go into smoke, but I've already set my drop point, and I felt like it was a pretty good guess as to where he'd be, so I went ahead and let my bombers continue, and it was a hit. Ended up getting the kill. I finally seen some of the enemy aircraft carriers' planes. Unfortunately, I completely messed up on that strafing run. And this strafing run he saw coming, so he was able to get his bombers out of there. I did engage his fighters, but I've only got 2 left, so I don't expect that fighter group to really survive. But I am going to try and thin out his torpedo bombers a little bit if I can before they get back behind their own lines. However, I do not want to lose both of my fighter groups at the same time. It looks like he's got his original layout for the Ranger, which is 1 fighter, 1 bomber, and 1 torpedo bomber, which means he's only got 1 fighter group out there. And so I should be able to get air superiority in this match. I also have for my commander the torpedo armament expertise, which is minus 20% service time for torpedo bombers. And I know it's ironic, but I do usually have torpedo bombers with my American aircraft carriers. It's just, like I said, I'm trying to get used to the fighters again, so I went with the 2 fighter 2 bomber loadout for now. I also have dogfighting expertise that gives plus 10% average damage per tier that you're below the enemy fighters. With the new matchmaking system, you should be only 1 tier below at max, but that will give you plus 10%. Now the bombers on the Ranger are actually pretty fast, so as long as you you set them up before they get to the target, you can usually get in and out before they pick off too many of your bombers. And we'll take a look at that on this next bombing run that I go in on once I launch them again. The last commander skill I have is the aircraft servicing expert. That gives plus 5% to aircraft HP, and it also gives a minus 10% servicing time. And I like that one because as an aircraft carrier, the faster you can get the bombers in the air, the better. So right now, I'm using the map a lot for what I'm doing. I am over my fighters, kind of micromanaging them and just moving them around. But I am looking at the mini-map right now in the bottom right corner to see where I'm going to send things.
Waypoint reached.
I'm trying to keep my fighters close to the front, so that they can react without being so close that they get picked off by the enemy's anti-aircraft guns. Now they're trying to break through on our flank over here, so that's why I'm sending both my bombers that way. And as you can see, I'm putting them way outside the anti-aircraft bubble and their point of no return before I actually commit to the attack. You have until they reach the dotted line on that circle. So when you hold down control, it allows you to manually select where you're going to drop the bombs, and it gives you a smaller circle for that when you do a manual drop. And you have until they hit that dotted line to reposition that circle. If you bring them in from if you have them lined up before you start bringing them in for the bombing run, you don't have to worry about them having to turn around and stay over the target. They'll just come in, drop their bombs, and get out of there. If they're too close to the target, when you drop the bombs, or when you set up the manual drop, then they will have to turn around.
Group 2, engaging enemy. Group 2, taking fire. Group 2, standing by for instructions. Over.
And when they turn around, they're over the enemy's anti-aircraft guns the entire time. So I will try and line them up from quite a distance out, and then I'll set the point where I want them to drop and just do fine adjustments as they come in. Right now, I was setting a few more waypoints for my ship. As you can see, we're still kind of towards the back, so I didn't feel comfortable trying to push forward. I am trying to take out the torpedo bombers as the larger threat right now before they can drop, and I'm going to send my fighters after the bombers. Again, I'm keeping my carrier moving, because if torpedo bombers or bombers do get through to your carrier, you want to be able to turn, or if a ship gets through, you don't want to be spending a bunch of time trying to get the carrier moving. And as you can see from a long distance out, I set up this bombing run, and then I just do fine adjustments once I start getting closer. I told my bombers to move ahead of him, and now I'm just kind of moving the circle around. Once it turns yellow, you can't they're at the point of no return, so you can't actually adjust it anymore. Yeah, unfortunately right now my team is not pushing forward. We are pretty even. We're actually ahead a little bit right now, but they haven't pushed forward, so it takes me a little longer to get my bombers launched, because you never, as an aircraft carrier, you have no guns, no real defenses, so you're never going to go ahead of the main group. You can stay with them though, so if they start pushing forward, you can stay behind them and get your bombers off quicker, because they have less time that they have to fly back to the ship.
Group 3, awaiting instructions. Group 2, maintaining present course.
You always want to try and time your fighters reloading so that only one is down at a time if possible. That's why you can't do constant strafing runs, because that does use up quite a bit of their ammunition. And the higher the tier of the fighters, the less ammunition the fighters have. So right now I'm just kind of keeping my fighters in the area where I want to send my bombers, just in case enemy fighters show up, but also back enough to where I can engage the enemy bombers if he tries to send them through.
Battle ends in 5 minutes.
And his fighters are coming towards my bombers. So as you can see, I pull my fighters in with my bombers, and I engage his fighters with both sets of fighters to keep them off of my bombers right now. And he's keeping his bombers and torpedo bombers both kind of in the same area, so I don't have to worry about them. When the circle stays as big as it is, that's means they have defensive fire turned on. So it kind of messes up your drop a little bit. Yeah, because he kept his bombers in the same area, I just switched off his fighters once I took out the air group and switched over to try and take out a few of his bombers. And since my team is pushing forward now, you can see I'm switching the autopilot over to push with them. I'm not going to go through the middle like the rest of my team is. I'm going to kind of stay off to the side, but still try and stay up with the team. The Ranger does turn like a brick though, so it takes a while to get it turned around. It's got decent speed, it just does not turn very well. And this right here is why you don't want to have both sets of fighters on the trying to reload at the same time, because then their bombers can come in and drop however they want to. And we're actually doing pretty well right now. They just have their Arizona and Ranger left. And there's about 2 minutes left in the round, with us up by about 300 points. And again, I start out wide, and then once I come in, I commit to the angle that I'm attacking at, even if he kind of starts turning into the bombers. Typically, you're still going to get a couple of hits, even if he tries to go in broadside. Now, I saw his fighters coming in, and since I had just launched both of my fighters, I decided to pull back on my other bomber group and let my fighters catch up, so that I can get a good bombing run on that Arizona. I tried to set up a strafing run, and again he saw it coming. But that's okay, I still have 2 groups of fighters. And he strafed one of them, took out a couple of fighters, but I was able to get my bombers in on a good drop and set a couple of fires. And I believe he had to use a repair earlier, so he's not going to be able to put out those fires.
Enemy battleship destroyed.
Now we just have the enemy aircraft carrier left, and he popped up in the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and send both my fighters that way, and my bombers are taking off. And see if I can support the destroyer. Yeah, unfortunately, we ran out of time before we were able to take out the aircraft carrier. But it wasn't too bad of a round, especially for an aircraft carrier after being away from them for so long. I did get 61,834 damage, got 25 hits, 26 shot down, 3 incapacitations, 4 kills, 16 fires. I got the arsonist and 1455 base XP. All in all, it was a pretty good round. The team did protect me, which kept me alive and allowed me to do some damage to the enemy team. And we ended up pulling out a win on that one. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.